I'm Nancy Martin, the archivist here at Peters Township Public Library. For those of you who don't know, the library has an archives here on the second floor in the local history room. And I just wanted to talk with you today a little bit about a very exciting collection that we have turned into a display here at the library. And this is a collection that involves both personal and corporate records, and it was donated by Ed Lybarger. The Lybarger family lived here in Peters Township from 1941 until 2020, and so the records they donated to the library cover a long period of time and give us a lot of details about life in the township during those years. So the left-hand side of our display case we have here is all personal papers of the Lybarger family. Father Samuel, Mother Alberta, son Ed. They lived on Old Oak Road in Peters Township, two different houses on the same street during the time that they lived here. The display on the right-hand side of the cabinet are records of E.A. Myers & Sons, Inc., which was a hearing aid manufacturing company, later known as Radio Ear, that had a building on Valley Brick Road here in the township, and I'll discuss that one later. But first I wanted to start talking a little bit about what the Lybarger family records tell us about life in Peters Township. So on the top shelf here, we have some information about the McMurray Lions Club, and Sam Lybarger was a very active member of the club, and Sam was a huge photographer, which is perfect for the archives because he liked to document everything. So we have some wonderful photos and documents left by Sam. In 1954, as a fundraising initiative, the Lions started their annual broom sale. And the Lions Club members would go door to door with brooms and mats that they were selling. And there's actually an awesome picture here from the very first sale taken by Sam of his fellow Lions trekking off with their merchandise. There was an article in the paper that says, quote, "All township housewives are urged to support the drive." Be a good housewife, buy a broom. Anyway, so in this collection here, we have the photo from the first sale. We have a receipt written out by Sam from the 1956 sale. And then the money was used to promote things within the township. So for example, from the 54 sale, the first one, the Lions purchased a Neolator, which was a very kind of advanced respirator, and it was donated to the volunteer fire company here in the township. So in this picture up top, on the left is Lions Club President Herbert Wilson, and on the right is the fire company president Milton Douglas. And there they are presenting this Neolator in its suitcase. And yeah, so the collection also includes some wonderful pictures from Lions Club parties. There are Lions Club initiation photos with broken eggs on the floor, all very mysterious. So that was more about Samuel, but Alberta was Samuel's wife and Ed's mom, and she too was a very active member of the Peters Township community, particularly in the Women's Club of Peters Township. And I don't know how many of you are aware, but it was the Women's Club of Peters Township that got the township a library. So we would not have what we have here today without this group of women. So there we have a photo here of Alberta and Barbara Miner. Their pictures can also be seen downstairs, kind of in the side entrance. They both served on the board for years and years, and again, were just foundational in the establishment of the library. So the library has had many iterations through the years, beginning in the Peters Township High School, the old Peters Township High School, and then moving through different buildings until this custom-built building in the late 90s. If you're interested at all in kind of the history of the library, you can look on our website under our About Us. There's a history and timeline where you can read a little bit more about it. I have a photo here from the opening of the new location in 1965. And that location was on the second floor of the Municipal Township building. And what I love about this picture is that the card catalog is front and center. You wouldn't find a card catalog here today. You'd go to a computer terminal to search the catalog, but I just love that in 1965 it has such pride of place in the library. We have a dish here commemorating the decades of service that Alberta gave to the organization, as well as a certificate of recognition. And then we have a copy during the 1980s, the Women's Club produced a newsletter called The Highlights, and it just kind of talked about the work they were doing and events in the lives of its members, and kind of just communicate with the public and with each other. And then we have a great photo of a display at Union National Bank from 1968, and it was advertising National Library Week. And the library was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and so they were allowed to use that space to promote their services. So Samuel, Alberta, this is more just kind of, the third section here is just kind of life in Peters Township. Like I said, the family lived here for 60 years. So in the collection, they had copies of Community Day programs. One here's from 1989. They had Christmas cards from Sproul's Service Station, which used to be located at Donaldson's Crossroads, which I think is fantastic. They have an invitation to the opening of McMurray Elementary School in 1993. My favorite picture here might be Sam and Alberta in their Victory Garden. For those of you who don't know, Victory Gardens were established during World War II as a means of ensuring a food supply for both troops and civilians. So they had their own Victory Garden on the nearby Cheeseman farm. And there's a picture of them harvesting something, I think it's potatoes, from their crop. The collection also had a plan for Peterswood Park, 1987, so it's kind of fun to go back and see what it actually is and what maybe the plans had been for it to be. And this awesome bumper sticker that says, "Positively Peters Township," which I enjoy. I don't know what, it's undated, I'm not sure when it's from. I would guess 80s or 90s, but I like that very much. And then the final section of the personal records of this family, talk about Ed Lybarger, the son's volunteer efforts with the Peters Township Kiwanis Club. And he was very active in that, serving as president from 1990 to 1991. And here we have his kind of commemorative gavel that marks his years of service as president. We have a picture in the back there of him receiving the gavel from the past president, passing the torch, or in this case, I guess, the gavel. And then one of their fundraisers, just as the Lions had the broom sale, the Kiwanis Club had Gasorama, which I just love the name. So we have some photos down here that advertising the 1993 Gasorama. And it was its 25th annual fundraiser in 1993. It was held on Saturday, May 22nd. So we have a sign advertising it, and then we have a picture of Al Durham, who's cleaning somebody's windshield during the Gasorama event. So yeah, this is a collection. Ed was one of our very first donors to the library. I'm going to say like early 2000s, and I just recently created the finding aid for these records so that if someone was interested in seeing more of it, you're welcome to come into the archives and you can have a look at the finding aid and have a look at some of the records. And then moving on to the business side of the Lybarger family, Alberta, Sam's wife, her father, E.A. Myers, began life as a trial attorney in Indiana. And then around the turn of the 20th century, he developed a serious hearing impairment, which prevented him from continuing as a trial lawyer. So he switched jobs and also started doing research into creating better hearing aids. He couldn't hear anything on the crystal sets they had at the time. So he developed a cabinet model hearing aid using vacuum tubes. It was like 185 pounds, 6 feet long, 1924. And his test was to whether or not he would be able to hear the National Democratic Convention in 1924. And he did. And he developed this model of hearing aid called Radio Ear. And that's where E.A. Myers and Sons later becomes Radio Ear. There's a fantastic picture here of Sam Lybarger, son-in-law of E.A. Myers, husband of Alberta, wearing one of his own hearing aid designs. So Sam went to Carnegie Mellon's earlier incarnation, Carnegie Technical Institute, I think it was called. Carnegie Institute of Technology is what it was called. He graduated in 1930. Physics degree, I believe, was hired by E.A. Myers, and he ended up lecturing all around the world. I think he had 22 different patents for hearing aid related devices, and I found this awesome picture online of a drawing he created for a noise reducing hearing aid case that he submitted to the U.S. Patent Office in 1947 and was granted a patent for in 1950. And here we have even a hearing aid, a model of one of the hearing aids designed by E.A. Myers and Company, the interior and exterior of it, and it's from 1958. So the way that the company comes to be affiliated with Peters Township, besides the fact that Sam and Alberta lived in the township, was that they outgrew their space on Beverly Road in Mount Lebanon. So they needed new space, and they reached out to a few different townships trying to find where the best location might be, and they ended up coming up with a site on Valley Brook Road, what is now Valley Brook Road, in Peters, and it was formerly known as either the McMurray-Thompsonville Road or the Thompsonville-McMurray Road, which, if you think about it, makes perfect sense because the road links McMurray with what was then Thompsonville. So the name of the street made perfect sense, but it's now known as Valley Brook Road. So during the 1955 and 1956, E.A. Myers and Sons, Inc., employer of Samuel, designed and built this beautiful new laboratory and office building on Valley Brook Road. And what's so fantastic is Sam kept all of the design plans, the drawings, the specs, construction photos, basically every stage of the development of the building is recorded here at the archives, which is so fantastic. So they hired Beal and Parkins architects out of Washington, PA, to do their designs. So we have their general construction specifications. We have a property survey of the lot that was done prior to construction. And then we also have building construction plans. And you might be able to see in the diagram, this is very juvenile, I know, but the little toilets are outlined as toilets in the men's restroom, which I find highly entertaining. And like I said, photographs, so many photographs. We have a photograph here of them first surveying the building site in 1955 before any construction was done. Then we have construction equipment from 1955, and I found it fascinating to see how equipment looks so different today than it did then. We have the exterior shot of the building from 1956 and a picture of the sign that was on the street. So E.A. Myers and Sons Incorporated was the company that manufactured the hearing aids, but Radio Ear was the distributing arm of the company. And over time, it simply became known as Radio Ear. And then once laboratory was completed into 1956, we have a few photos here of work taking place in the laboratory of the new building. And it's very well organized and neat and tidy. And then we have a photograph of Conrad Hoffmeister, who was a group leader for the company, and he's building a chassis amplifier in the new Peters Township building. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it's a cool picture. And then our last section are the Radio Ear, is a Radio Ear sign, which I think is just fantastic. We have some promotional materials as well. So there's a yellow flyer here, which was kind of a promotional flyer advertising the move of the business from Mount Lebanon to Peters, and they actually even drew a map from the location all the way down 19 and to Peters Township. I think it was a really big deal for this company to have reached the point where it needed to expand to such a large extent and have its own dedicated building. And then there's a fantastic picture of the completed building with the Radio Ear Laboratory sign out front from 1956. According to Ed Lybarger's oral history interview, which he did with the archives back in the early 2000s, the building continued to be occupied by Radio Ear until the 1980s, at which time the company moved on, but the building still stands and other companies use it today. So I just think that's a wonderful history of Peters Township that a lot of people don't know anything about. And again, I just have to thank Ed. Ed has been one of our earliest and strongest supporters here for the archives. And without donations of records from people like him, we wouldn't have the opportunity to mount such rich displays and to share the history of the township with the community. So thank you so much to Ed. I also want to make a plug for the archives. October is American Archives Month. And from October 1st to 12th, down in the lobby, we're going to have all kinds of archival themed displays, games, activities, a scavenger hunt. And on Thursday, October 3rd, from 6 to 7 in the multipurpose room, we are going to be having a local history trivia night. So whether you know a lot of the history or don't know a lot of history, it's intended to be fun. Maybe you'll learn something new. So please feel free to register for that, usually about 4 weeks before the program. And please come explore the archives. Archives exist to be used, and we would love to see you here.